Yeah, welcome back, everyone. Welcome to your resident nerds. Me and Gino are having to redo this entire thing. Justin, if you're editing this, feel free to cut to a clip of us finding out Gino was echoing the entire time.
FYI, Gino is echoing.
Has
Well,
he been echoing this entire time?
is it recent, Brady? I'm gonna blow my brains out.
I think I might have found out why. I don't know why, but I have two audios coming from desktop, which is weird. Please tell me Gino is not echoing that entire time. Oh, that's so unfortunate. Oh, man, that's the entire review with an echo. That's hype. Dude, I will still upload this.
Can we start it again? Fuck it, because...
Yeah, it's because I fixed it, Brady. I think I know what it was. Oh, no.
Well, I mean, fuck it. We go again.
We go again.
We have the record for it.
God damn it, that's so annoying.
I'm gonna go get some water.
Go get some water.
Talk to the people first. I'll be ready.
I'm gonna eat some fucking Bojangles. Oh, but I just watched Shang-Chi today. I keep saying Shang-Chi. I'm Shang-Chi.
Why do we have 5 viewers now? I'm gonna blow my.
It's because you're not echoing anymore, Gino. That's why, apparently. But I just got done watching Shang-Chi today. An amazing movie. I went and got Bojangles afterwards because, it's always bow time after a Shang-Chi movie. That's what they say, right? That's what Simu said?
Yeah.
That's exactly what Simu said.
That's what's been going around.
Yeah, that's what he said. But Gino watched this a few days before me, and we both love the movie, so we just kind of want to go into it. But for those of you that don't know, Gino is a wee bit quiet now as well. All right, thank you, Brady. Brady's our backup tech guy. He's our producer. There you go, Gino.
Yeah, how do I sound now, Brady?
I think that's
Give
a
it
good
to me.
level. That's a good level. Like how we're just patiently waiting on Brady.
Yeah, damn straight
Amazing.
it is. Great.
Welcome back, everyone. We just did this entire review already in the last hour and found out Gino was echoing. So we're redoing it again. Justin cut to a clip of Gino echoing the entire time and us finding out. Anyways.
Yo.
Anyway, today we're reviewing Shang-Chi. I just saw it literally a few hours ago and then got Bojangles right after. So I'm going to be eating my biscuit and drinking while we're doing this. But I love the movie, and Gino saw it a few days ago. Literally told me, he's like, I'm not gonna say much, but I think you're gonna enjoy this, and he was entirely right.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy when I walked away from the movie the first time. I was like, "Damn, bro!" That was really fucking cool. That was great. Something I didn't say the first time we did around for this review.
This little review, this YouTube review, and Spotify. Go and check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff at Your Resident Nerds. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe down below and give us a like to show us that you guys like this kind of content, because if not, we won't bother doing it. We'll do something else. We want to do what you guys want us to do, because we're your resident nerds. And on that note, my name is Nikita. I'm kind of a big comic book dork. And who are you again?
My name is Gino, and I'm your local weeb enthusiast.
Oh my god! And we also love movies, which is why we're reviewing this comic book themed movie. So anyways, Gino.
I like the MCU. MCU is pretty great. I don't think I can have a normal viewing experience when I go to the movie theaters. When I went to see this movie, in case you didn't know, because there's a large Chinese-American vibe in this movie. There's a lot of Mandarin that's spoken.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have Mandarin being spoken, you have English subtitles, and then I had this older gentleman who was with his grandson, who the grandson was having to translate the movie to him in Spanish. So I have Mandarin in one ear, Spanish in another ear. I'm reading English. There's a lot of shit going on. It was a very, very interesting viewing experience, to say the least, but still pretty epic, still pretty great.
Jeez Louise, yeah, wow. No, I had my theater wasn't too packed because of COVID, but it still had like a decent amount of people, and I went to a 4:00 showing too, so the fact that there were still other people there was actually kind of impressive. And that's because this movie has been breaking records. Like, this movie, if you haven't seen Shang-Chi, check it out. The story behind it is actually really cool too, because now I'm not sure if Simu inspired Marvel to technically do it, but I kind of think he definitely played a hand. Like, here's this one tweet from him, which let me see if I can pull up real quick for you guys. He tweeted out at Marvel because he was kind of like, yeah, you guys have a lot of popular characters that are just all pretty, like, let's be honest, the Avengers are pretty white. Like,
yes.
He's like, okay, Marvel, are we going to talk or what? Shang-Chi throws that at them. I think that was his later tweet, but his very first tweet was this one right here, where he's like, "Hey Marvel, great job with Captain America and Thor. Now how about an Asian American hero? LOL." Which he's right, because isn't it kind of crazy that literally, I mean, you get some other diverse characters as the MCU went on, but up to Endgame, there's not really an Asian American hero besides Wong, who's a side character. Like,
Yeah, we have Wong, and we have what's
Am
her
I
name,
missing
who's an
someone?
alien. I think
Oh,
Mantis technically is Asian, but she definitely is not in the in
in the Marvel universe, she's an alien. She's not. So like Shang-Chi is the very first Asian superhero, which is so cool, and I think that helped garner a lot of hype around this movie, because it was a lot of people. It kind of brought two sides out, where people are like, "Oh, this is awesome! We're finally being included." While then you have the messed up side of media and stuff like that, where people are like, "Oh, it's just for diversity. It's just them trying to be woke." Which no, it's not, which is so dumb, because forced diversity isn't a thing. It's just people being included in media, in mainstream stuff. Because guess what? In this world, we have a ton of different races besides just white. Like, we have Asian
Nikita,
Americans.
are you telling me in the U.S. there's a lot of different people? It's a pretty diverse country with a lot of different representation.
No, sorry,
That's
Gino.
crazy.
It's actually only white people, and we all live in the South. That's it. No one lives in New York, California, no. But yeah, like, so that, and I'm glad.
I sent you that interview earlier. That it was an Asian woman who was having an interview with Simu Liu, and she was talking about that, like, she found him to be an inspiration to both her and to her, like, four-year-old son, and like that stuff's important, man. Like, you know, it makes me really happy if Asian Americans are watching this film and they're being like, yo, I see, like, apt representation here. I feel like I can relate to this guy on a personal level.
Not even just great representation. It's just a great film overall. Like, the movie itself was amazing. A lot of people are loving it. Had an amazing story, great fighting choreography. It pulled a lot from the comics, and then it didn't pull a lot from the comics, which I like. I will say, for an MCU film, I feel like this one kind of broke the formula a little bit. Like, it didn't go by what your every Marvel origin story does. It didn't go one-to-one with the comics at all. They took some liberties, which some I disagree with, some I don't. But regardless, still made an amazing story out of all of those liberties, and kind of pushed a different atmosphere and setting that we usually don't see in Marvel. And even a touching story. Like, at times they do still have that comedy formula that they kind of do, but I don't think it's as pushed in this movie as it was in, like, Black Widow, Spider-Man, all those. Like, I definitely think this is the start of a new generation for Marvel, and I think it's a great start for a new generation.
It was an emotionally investing story. They also, I realized, I didn't even talk about this last time, they broke the mold of, like, forcing a love interest in for Shang-Chi, because Awkwafina's character wasn't really like a love interest. They were friends.
They hint at it at times, but it's never like, all right, we know they're gonna kiss. Like, I did think they were going to by the end of the film. No, they just, like, still keep it to a friendship level. Maybe in a future film, but for that happening in a Marvel origin story, the superhero not immediately falling in love with a woman, that's huge.
And that, like, Awkwafina's character wasn't like bogged down to just like a love interest. She had her own developing, like, plot and storyline that goes along just for her character. That shit was cool as hell to have that for someone who is supposed to be our lens into that world, like our viewership. She's like the normal person.
Yeah.
Right? Out of all the people that we beat.
Well, you made a comment about this earlier when we originally did this recording. As you said, every character kind of gets their own, like, story and development, which is nice, because in most Marvel films, it's kind of just all solely focused on the main superhero. Well, in this one, it's like Shang gets it, Awkwafina gets it, his sister gets it. Like, everyone gets their own story, their
relationships develop, like,
the relationships, closure,
his sister,
everything.
His dad, them as like a family. There's closure, as Nikita pointed out. There's development. It's really awesome. You don't always get that in film. Like, that stuff sounds like it should be like like the normal standard, and it should be, but you definitely don't always get it. And they did it. They pulled it off, like, masterfully here. It was really, really good in terms of the story.
Exactly. I loved it. I really only had very few complaints. Like, I think some of it was the earlier fight scenes, and more so the CGI in the fight scenes too. I think the choreography was great. It's some of the earlier CGI, because you can tell they use a lot of the budget later in the movie. Earlier in the movie, you can kind of notice some things, which is kind of annoying here and there, but There's still of the Marvel formula where they do, like, the comedic timing and just the worst times in the middle of a serious moment, but it's kind of to be expected. But I feel like they definitely didn't do it as much in this movie, and I think my only other complaint. Oh, we talked about it originally, but some of the designs also kind of lack a lot of stuff. Like
Yep.
Shang-Chi's design, like this is his. Let me pull up his comic book design. In the movie, it's just a basic red shirt, and honestly, it looked worse in the trailers. In the movie
I
itself,
think I
like,
sent you also
oh yeah,
one of
with
the
him.
pictures with his like full thing on.
Yeah,
If you
here,
want to
let
pull that
me.
up.
There we go. So this is a picture of him in his current costume, which honestly it didn't actually look that bad in the movie. It is kind of sick. And I see which costume they derived it from. It's very similar to, I think, his Avengers costume. I'm pretty sure the one that he had in Jonathan Hickman's run. But that's a very bland costume. And Shang-Chi has had a lot of bland costumes over the years. It's only recently that Marvel really started delving into like making his costume pop a little bit more. And I was so hoping they would have done that in this film. I feel like they kind of went the simple route with this film because they're kind of setting it up to be more detailed, I guess, in future films, because they always do that with costume evolution with all their characters. But this is like the main costume that he has now. And I think that's sick. Like, I don't know what you think about it, Gino, but like,
No, I really love it. I love the green and red with the mixed with the gold. You mentioned it earlier. I love
the
his
gold
fucking,
accents. Oh
his,
yeah, the finger
his
gloves.
gloves. Dude, they look fucking sick. You always want to see those like martial arts characters. I like. Oh, mwah.
That's what I'm saying. This
Uh,
costume looks clean, and I feel like compared to the other costume,
no.
the other ones look a little bland, and he kind of blends in a little too much with the other characters. He doesn't stand out as much costume design wise, but that's a very minute detail to kind of complain over compared to like
Yeah,
the rest of this movie.
the only other time I've seen Shang-Chi normally is an Ultimate Spider-Man, which I've been reading recently, and he's usually shirtless in that run.
Man.
Which, now that I'm thinking about it, is really funny that they included that joke in the arena scene,
Shirtless scene.
where they made him shirtless. It like fits perfectly into like that comic, like kind of making fun of it, kind of pushing it a little bit of like, what, Shang-Chi, why aren't you wearing your shirt?
That's actually a good point. I think that really was a reference to the comics where he doesn't wear his shirt a lot. And it's like, well, why aren't you? Yeah. Did you have any other non-spoilery like issues with the movie?
Oh, the other design. I didn't like I didn't like the henchmen for the Ten Rings. I thought they were really lame.
Oh yeah.
In regards to both their weapons, which I realized were just like swords with tasers attached to them for some reason, and
It's
then
too
they looked like
comic-y.
they looked like ninjas, but they looked like they were wearing like riot gear for some fucking reason.
Yeah, the weapons are what get me the most because I'm like, yeah, it's one thing if you're just trying to capture them, but there's a point where they're trying to just kill people, and instead they're just like tasing them. And I'm like, if you just brought a regular sword, you'd be stabbing them, right? Like that sounds more simplistic. Like I get it, it's not as like comic booky crazy type thing, but like sometimes people kind of just want common sense moments as opposed to like I'm not saying I want my comic book movies to be realistic by any means, but I don't want them to be outright dumb, you know.
It would have been so cool if all of their weapons were like the one dude who was missing his arm. That it had like the heat.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
cool. Like I don't know why they didn't have that for the final thing. That would have
That
been
is
cool to
one
see
thing.
them like swinging around like the reds, like with the other like the dragon scale reds. Like yeah, that would have been neato. I would have
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
I was gonna say, besides him and his father, like there weren't any like crazy villains that like character like villains. Obviously, there's a big villain near the end. I'm not gonna spoil it, but besides his father and the like armed bladed guy, you don't really see them. I mean, you get like a sneak peek of Abomination, as we all know, but that trailer kind of has everything you need. Like it's just a sneak peek of him, which is really cool. I love how they drop their Easter eggs. Like you could tell Shang-Chi was in the Marvel universe, but it didn't bog down his story. Like the focus was solely on him and his story most of the time. They were just neat little Easter eggs that kind of show you what might be happening in future Marvel films, which I think should happen in almost every Marvel film. It's so cool because it leads to a lot of fan theories and speculation, like a lot more hype for these future movies. It didn't get in the way, but I just wish there were more creative like villains, I guess, for the most part. I think the father was an amazing villain. I think it would have been cool if Shang was kind of dealing with a few other issues, you know, like a few other like characters or conflicts when it comes to his fights rather than fist fighting.
Now that you bring that up, there was the one character with the mask who I believe is a character in the comics? Question mark. Do you know what I'm
Not to
talking
my
about?
knowledge. I think
Okay.
he probably is, but to my knowledge, I don't know.
I thought I've
I'll
seen him
Google
before.
it, but-
His mask looks familiar. That was the only reason I asked. But he was the only other one who I thought was gonna end up either being like a reveal of like who it is or like something more with him. He seemed to be like special beyond the average soldier, but then ended up not really doing anything in the end. He just kind of had like a really quick, cheap death, and I was like, oh, I was like, okay, kind of
Yeah.
interesting, but you know, yeah. I'm still blown away by like the martial arts and stuff like that. If you're a really big fan into like Hong Kong like kung fu movies or like just like martial arts in general, I think you're really going to enjoy this movie. There was a lot of shots that were like long standing where they show you the full extent of the action, and it's not like doing a fuck ton of like quick cuts. So some of the fights were like that, but every scene with Simu Liu, who's our main character, Shang-Chi, he did a fucking phenomenal job. He did so well in terms of like fighting and such. It was so great.
All the fight scenes are great.
I love that scene so much, man. With the fucking rings contending against each other.
The rings are really cool because a lot of people are like, the rings don't really. They don't do what they do in the comics, which yeah, that's true. In the comics, they're like way more busted, and it's a shame that they kind of didn't go the whole Mandarin route, which I'll get more into in the spoiler-free reviews. But I think the fight scenes and the rings implementation were really cool in this movie. A lot of
also Shang-Chi saving the woman on the bus when he like pulls her back in, dude. I love it when Marvel like shows its heroes being like heroes to everyday people. It's so great. It makes me like you just instantly are like, yo, this character fucking rocks, bro.
Because that's his focus. Like there, and that's the cool thing is it shows the difference between him and his dad early on. Like his dad, as you all know, is a fucking super villain in this movie and in the comics. He leads a terrorist organization. In the comics, it's called the Hands. In this one, it's called the Ten Rings. Very kind of different, but also very similar story. So, like I said, they took some liberties. Like they took a lot of liberties from Iron Fist's story, it seems. But I think that's more because they might want to use Shang-Chi to implement Iron Fist in the future. Is my hypothesis. I could be wrong. But anyways, something that was really cool is there's a moment where like Shang and his father they don't line up in the movie at all, but there's just two different points in the movie where like Shang is in the bus scene and his father's like in this like car accident type scene. And in the car accident his father only saves himself, but in the bus scene you see like Shang saves the woman. And it made me think like when the other scene happened I was like, yeah, that's so cool that they kind of like they're showing the difference. Like this is why Shang is like a hero, is not only is he thinking of his survival in the midst of like danger, he's thinking of everyone's survival. That's like the difference between a hero and another character in general. And I think they really showed that well between him and his father throughout this movie. The dynamic between the two I thought was really cool. Like their story and their conflict just grow and develop in an amazing way. That's as like non-spoilery as I can get without like getting too into it, I feel like. But yeah.
So I think that'll probably end our section on the non-spoiler reviews. Well, I'll just leave it off on a final note to say go see this movie if you get a chance to. Right now it is technically it broke the highest box office for Labor Day weekend, which is
it's
cool.
destroying records right now.
So like, go see it. Give it
go
your
support. See it. Read the comics too. Marvel also kind of does that too, where they use the comics as a basis for what they want to do next or what stories to implement. And so you might find a really cool Shang-Chi story. Right now, he's actually going up against the Marvel Universe at the moment. He took over his father's terrorist organization and is trying to use it as a force for good. But a lot of heroes are like, oh, well, you're not a big hero. You're not popular. We don't really know you that well. So I don't think we can trust you to do this job. Leave it to S.H.I.E.L.D. or something. And Shang is kind of just putting his foot down saying, no, fuck you. I have the resources now, and I can kick your ass. I'm going to do what I can to save the world, which is really cool. It's been amazing. That's his most recent run. Check it out, or check out any other Shang-Chi story, and then Marvel's more likely to implement it afterwards.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I do want to pick up some at some point to read more about him in the future. This movie is definitely... I will say, like, in terms of, like, the active Avengers right now, he's definitely, like, in my top 5, probably.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Oh yeah,
I really enjoyed seeing him fight, and like it just got your boy's blood pumping. I'm ready to go. Hey.
Well, let's go into the spoiler section. So if you haven't seen the movie and you still want to stick around, just be warned, spoilers. But
we're talking about it all now.
I think I just want to start off with the start of this movie. Gino and I have some differing views on this. I kind of love the first fight scene. The first fight scene is, I will say right off the bat, I noticed some of the CGI issues because, again, they use it all towards the end. The final scenes look clean. The first few scenes look a little rough. And in this one, you kind of see it, but I love the fight. The one thing that drew me was the fighting choreography. That's when I knew, okay, the fight scenes are going to be really cool. This isn't meant to be a crazy action packed fight scene. It's kind of supposed to show like a differing philosophies, and you know that that's going to come back later. And I just thought the contention between the two different fighting styles between Shang's mother and father were really cool, between open fists and closed fists, and the differences between those. Like one is meant to harm and one is meant to just deflect.
Yeah. I will say in like retrospect, it really highly reminded me of. Have you ever seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon before?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of some of like the fight scenes in that movie, like especially the ones where they're like chasing each other like through the trees and stuff, like they're doing those long jumps. It highly reminds me of that. So it's definitely like a shout out to like I keep bringing this title up, the Hong Kong like action movies.
Yeah.
So you know, I wasn't the biggest fan of it as an opening. I was kind of like, this looks okay.
I love it, but yeah.
If you like it, you like it. I like the themes that they set up for later on in the movie. I told Nikita earlier that really what drew me into it was that first bus scene. I thought it was fucking awesome. The bus scene, and then the when they're in the tower and they use the bamboo construction.
Yes.
Like, scaffolding. I thought that was such an amazing like set that they produced, and like we're using it to implement it with the fighting styles. Like, so fucking cool, man. Like,
I just thought those were probably two of the best fight scenes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe too. The choreography is so clean, and then just implementing because they really don't do hand-to-hand combat that much in Marvel. Like even in the Avengers, you don't really see it that much. And three of their 7-8 characters are based like hand-to-hand fighters. With Captain America, they default to his shield a lot. With Black Widow and Hawkeye, it's more of their artillery that they focus on, as opposed to them like actually fighting bare fists and making it a cool fight. And with Shang-Chi, they have it.
The only like movies I think that are like comparative to what we saw is
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier definitely has some really good choreography. I can't see like it didn't. It had pretty like equivalent choreography, I would say. I think Shang-Chi's was definitely better just because it had more, but like I'm not gonna rat on Civil War. The people who worked on that film did an amazing job.
Yeah.
And I think I just said Civil War, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. Sorry, even I.
Civil War also had like kind of okay. It definitely did not compare to this stuff. So like I'd say like Winter Soldier and Shang-Chi are pretty similar. If you like action, like specific like good long shot like type action, you're really gonna like Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
It definitely he's not underestimating it when he's saying that it goes beyond like the normal Marvel standard in terms of action. It really does.
And something to talk about even just before that bus scene, Simu as Shang's character is so cool. He does just feel like a regular, like normal, as regular as you can get, but like I guess almost like what I wanted from Peter Parker in the MCU, where he feels a little more normal rather than just like almost instantly already becoming a superhero and getting close with the Avengers and stuff like that. Like I get it because his character's already had several origin stories, and this was Shang's origin story, so they didn't throw him in there yet, and they probably will in his next movie. But in this one, you get to see him live out a bit of a normal life first, and just a really fun, cool, regular life that like we would, I feel like, just live on.
He just sounds like a kind of guy I want to like hang out with, like at the beginning of the film.
Yes.
Like the way that they were giving him like mannerisms, and like for instance, he was worried about losing his job. The relationship that he had with Awkwafina's character, like her family. That stuff was so cool that he just seemed like an average dude. When the people approached him on the bus, he wasn't even trying to like catch smoke originally. He was just like, "Whoa, guys!" Like,
yeah, exactly. He wasn't trying to show off his power, or I say his powers, but his like skills by any means. He was being very low key about it, and it's cool because literally just at the start of the day he does push-ups, so it's like that. Even just that small detail shows you like, okay, he still holds on to his very strict like lifestyle when it comes to keeping your body well maintained and trained and keeping up and honing your skills, but other than that he just wants to live as normal of a life as possible, which are to me, that those first few scenes of him like being, I think in San Francisco is where they're based, just really like pulled me in and showed me like, oh damn, this is Shang's a really cool character outside of just him being a superhero, you know?
Yeah. I wanted to compliment Simu Liu. Does a wonderful job in this movie. He's a great actor. He's a great stuntman, and he has basic. I believe he has like basic knowledge of martial arts already. Like going into this movie, he did.
Yep. Yeah.
Tommy Leung, who played his father, I think that's his name is Tommy Leung. me a second to double check that.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, it is. It's Tommy Leung. He's been doing movies in Hong Kong for God, I don't know how long. I believe since like the 80s. He's was like a well-known Mandarin, or Hong Kong like actor, and this is his first like Hollywood film. It's so great to see him in it. He did such a good job as like the villain. I told Nikita that my favorite scene by far is when he is hunting down the people who killed Shang-Chi's mother.
Yeah.
And he brings Shang-Chi to the bar.
Wait, correction. Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Not to correct you.
Sorry, Shang-Chi.
You're good. I've been doing it too, I think, but
it's okay. Dude, oh god, that joke that they had about him calling himself Sean as like his switchover name.
And then he's like, "How did you find me, father?" And how do you think he found you? Your name was still the same thing. Like what? Also, wait, did they? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm misremembering this, but did they go over the man that he was like sent to kill?
Yeah, that was one of the other things I didn't mention last time. Is that they definitely they went over it too, because he had the heart-to-heart talk with Awkwafina's character about like, oh, like I'm not the kind of guy that you think I am. I am actually a murderer, and I did kill my I avenged my mom essentially. Yeah. I was kind of upset that they didn't just show us that scene.
Yeah,
would have been kind of nice. But
well, I have a theory. I have a quick theory. Remember how Awkwafina's character, her Katie's
I was
grandfather's.
Also thinking that might be connected, but like.
Maybe it's a pull. It's a pull, but
yeah, it would seem really fucking awkward that he would go and have a conversation with her grandmother and be like, "I don't think you should leave this food and that thing for him for like I can't remember what they call it when they
Day of the Dead.
Yeah, I don't think you should be bringing junk food and cigarettes for Day of the Dead." And she was like, "Oh no, like he would like it would be really fucking weird if he had that type of banter with her grandmother after he killed."
Well, maybe that's why he's like he feels responsible for watching over his family or something.
Maybe I don't know. I feel like it's a stretch.
That's a theory. That's a theory.
I want to say it's not connected. Like I would not be a big fan if they were like, yeah, she fucking murdered his best friend's grandfather. Yeah, like okay.
But back to that scene that you were talking about. Yeah, I think that's probably the most emotional part of the movie too, because this kid just watched his mom die, and his father, who's reformed, is now going back into his old ways and is saying, "Yeah, you want to survive this world and not die like your mother, you're gonna have to be cruel like me, and just show people."
I can the only other like dark scenes that I know in Marvel to have like even an inch like close to that and like being like as brutal as they were Iron Man seeing his friend die in the cave in Iron Man 1.
I think Black Panther with Killmonger's origin.
Yeah, Killmonger's origin's pretty up there. The Winter Soldier killing Tony's parents and him having to watch that footage was pretty dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yes. That's to say that Marvel doesn't have that like a lot of the times.
They're very willing to just kind of like cut it and clean it. They're like where right before that moment they'll cut it and go into a joke or something like that. Because even this movie still had those moments, but did not do that during that scene, and I really appreciate it.
Or the impact just doesn't feel as strong. Like I remember, even when I remember when Thor's mom died originally. Like I just kind of like okay,
yeah, because they made such a
but, like
I hate the Thor movies. I really do. I know people love Thor Ragnarok, but God, his father dying and him losing the Mjolnir and all that just was so fucking comedy joke central where I was like, this is stupid. I don't feel bad for him at all. Well, it's Shang. It's like you literally see this kid's face as his father kills this man right in front of him after his mother died. Like
ears and everything too, dude. Like it was such a like just a well done fucking scene, bro. Like that's why I said I got like fucking chills watching it. Like I was like, this is so fucking cool.
Dude, I loved it. And
see him like releasing his rage through the rings and everything, and like us getting to see the power on a more like personal level, I guess.
Yeah,
like, super nice.
And the other thing, I guess I really liked what I really liked about this movie is also just like the settings and stuff around it too. It wasn't like a normal like superhero setting. It brought in like Asian mysticism, which was really cool. Like the dragons were really fucking awesome. I love that. Checking out the temple, Tao Lao, like all those locations were really cool and unique. And his sister's like brawl place, Hong Kong brawl place was super cool.
The Hong Kong brawl place was so fucking lit.
And I loved
the aesthetic of it was so nice.
I'm glad they didn't have Wong and Abomination like kind of overshadow the other characters too much. I'm glad their cameos were just brief. I have to say the cameos in general were great. You
Yep.
like with the post credit scene, seeing Captain Marvel and stuff like that. Like we're getting tastes of what's going to happen in their future films. Like with Captain Marvel, there was an emergency that popped up. Bruce Banner, Gino, you brought this up last time. He's back in his human form now. He's not in the Hulk form anymore, and his arm's still severely injured. And Abomination's around, and they're all working with Wong. So like, what's going on there? You know, like there's a lot of cool things happening at the moment. But just to go from like the settings and stuff like Tao Lao and things like that, some complaints that I've been seeing are people have issues with him being nearly identical to Iron Fist's origin story, which in a way is kind of true. The family stuff is very original Shang-Chi. I guess like he actually has more siblings in the comics. He doesn't just have one sister. But like otherwise the family stuff is kind of the same. His father isn't the Mandarin in the comics either, but he's just a regular like eternal gangster terrorist head organization person. But the mysticism stuff in the comics, it's all based around the hand, which has their whole thing about like resurrection and things like that. It's a pretty cool and like in-depth Marvel Universe organization. So I am a little disappointed that they didn't go that route more so, but I also don't mind that they kind of went, I say the Iron Fist route. It's technically different because Iron Fist route is he's from Kunlun, I think, where it's guarded by this dragon, and you have to fight the dragon and gain its ability, and you basically have the power of like the chi of the dragon or whatever called the Iron Fist, and can protect the world with it and fight off like evil chi spirits and dark dimensions and stuff like that. Kind of similar to Shang-Chi, but he, even though like they had a dragon protector, he didn't actually inherit the power from the dragon. He more just learned a mystical martial arts that everyone in the temple like knows, and also more of his like I guess supernatural thing came from the rings, which he's also not tied to, and that's not tied to Iron Fist at all in the comics. So like,
I said this earlier. I'm just really glad that they gave Shang-Chi the rings.
Yes, and
they're gonna make him like an actual like fighting force in the MCU, and it's gonna be great. Like, dude's gonna be a fucking powerhouse.
Yeah, and that's also kind of why what I liked about it is, you know, he in the comics he doesn't have the 10 rings, and here he does. He does have the Mandarin rings. Like he's a very different version from his comic book counterpart, and I actually like that. It kind of sets Marvel to be its own thing, which I really enjoy. Like I'm not the type of fan that wants everything to be 1-to-1 for the comics. There are some aspects that I love from the comics that I think should carry over, but I also love when they take their own liberties and kind of try to differentiate them, and I think they do that really well with Shang-Chi, where they take those liberties and they make the character even more interesting with them. Because in the comics he's not well known, while here like they're making him a heavy hitter. Like he's going to be on the Avengers, and he's arguably one of the more stronger members on the side of the Avengers, to be honest, especially with the rings. Yeah. Especially when he used the rings to destroy a fucking dragon.
Oh god, it's so fun. It's such a cool fucking scene. I want to see like, you know, trying to think of another. I want to see like Black Widow pull that off, right? Or like Hawkeye versus the dragon. Who wins?
Obviously Hawkeye. I mean, Awkwafina killed the dragon, which I will say the fact that it took, because I love that scene. Don't get me wrong, Awkwafina deserves.
I love the finale for her, dude. I was actually, that scene made me so happy. Like I was like, yo, like, ooh.
My issue is that there was a point in the like sometimes the movie did this. There was 2 other points where I think I was just like, okay, Sean can do something right now. I don't know why he's not, and I get it. It's because the build up suspense and conflict and all that. But literally at the end of the movie, Shang and his sister, before they're even like getting flung around or taken by the other dragon, are just hanging on to the good dragon, and they're just watching. Had just like been fighting the evil dragon. Shang was throwing his ring blast, all that, and then they stop, I guess, to take a breather real quick, and they're chilling on the good dragon, and the evil dragon is then sucking up and eating spirits while they're doing that and getting visibly more and more powerful, and they're like, what do we do? I'm like, fucking you have the rings now, just send a fucking key punch his way or something, stop him. Like, why are you?
He's been around his father all of his life and definitely knows kind of what
the rings can do. You know? What he was doing 10 seconds before, and then he stops and he sees all these souls coming, and he's like, what do we do? I'm like, you could literally either punch the dragon or punch the things flying towards the dragon, giving him a soul. You waited like 5 minutes for your friend to be like, yeah, all right, let's fucking step in now.
Suspense is suspense. You gotta give it a second. You know.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's y'all's opinions of the high Rotten Tomatoes score, critical grumbling about superhero movies? Is the Marvel formula still succeeding? Yeah, we kind of talked about this. This is my buddy Ethan. I'm fairly certain.
Oh, okay.
This thing high. Ethan, if I had to say, I almost feel like this movie kind of fits into the Marvel formula, but adds like some spice to it. You know, I think because Black Widow is what I would say is like pure Marvel formula. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. That's why I didn't enjoy the Black Widow film at all.
Yeah. This is like Marvel formula, but they added a really good story with it. They made it so that all of the characters are like relevant in the formula. They switched things up by not having a female love interest. Like the way I would answer your question, or the last question you gave, is that I think Marvel is like realizing that they have to evolve. I think Phase 4 is
Yes.
them trying to figure out like how do we move forward away from like the original like Avengers era. Essentially, how are we going uh, to succeed past that? In regards to the high Rotten Tomatoes score, I mean, I think it's well deserved. I think it has a high audience score, if I remember correctly. Did I send that to you, Nikita?
What
The
the?
screenshot of the Rotten Tomatoes website.
Yeah, you did actually. Let me pull it
Yeah,
up.
if you want to pull it up.
Yeah, well, I would just as you're going off about it. Actually, I 100% agree too. It's evolving the formula because it does have some things from like a classic Marvel film, but I didn't feel like I was watching just your everyday Marvel film. Maybe it's because they like did different settings, areas. I feel like they developed the characters more and just had a more unique cast. So maybe it's because it's just Shang-Chi in general. But I really hope they continue this with future Marvel films, and it looks like they kind of are with Far From Home and what that's like starting to look like. Eternals definitely does not look like your everyday Marvel film. Like I do agree that Marvel seems like they want to evolve whatever their formula is, or start to at least expand that formula instead of doing what every phase 1 through 3 Marvel film kind of looked like, where it was more of a comedic punching bag type of movie as opposed to like an actual like in-depth story, emotional story.
And if I remember correctly, I believe Deadpool's been confirmed onto
Yeah, yeah, they're
Marvel at
making
this point.
yeah, because they
That's gonna
had
be
him connect to Korg on TikTok, which made
yeah.
him canon.
But that's what I'm saying though, is that that's going to be like Marvel or like Marvel's like first rated R movie,
Oh yeah.
which is definitely going to have to go away from like the typical formula, quote unquote, and that should just be like proof of like Marvel is trying to take steps to move forward
Yeah.
in a way that is evolving.
Which is why, and Eternals is out next, and like your friend just said, Eternals looks badass. I agree. Like the first trailer had me not so excited, but this recent trailer really does. Like I love this. Environment and setting is just such a big thing for me because most of the Marvel superhero films have been based in like New York or just classic USA. This seems like it's kind of exploring the world and different cultures and things like that, and like the history of the Marvel universe before superheroes, which is I've always loved. Like that's part of the reason why I love Captain America as well. Eternals seems like it's going to be doing a really unique spin on like the Marvel universe's history, especially with Black Knight involved as well, him being a historical Marvel character. Also, Gino, I could be wrong. I think your mic is pogging.
That was it.
Yeah. While you're fixing that, I'm going to mute you real quick. Yeah, hold up. You keep going, Gino, while you do that. Here's the tomato meter. It's got 92% from critics and then 98%. And the critics' consensus kind of hit the bat with it. Isn't entirely free of Marvel's familiar formula, but the exciting origin story expands the MCU in more ways than one. And yeah, it does take some liberties with Marvel's formula, but I do think it kind of takes a different spin with it. Like I think they definitely tried out some new things that they were like, yeah, I think it's time we expand or evolve, as Gino said. I don't think it was the origin story alone that just like expanded into the MCU. Like yes, Shang-Chi gets you into a new genre of the MCU, but I think in general the writing for this story just also felt different than your classic Marvel formula. Also, I'm gonna unmute Gino and see if this is working now.
Fixed. Hello. Testing.
Yeah, there you go.
We did really well for this hour and a half.
Yeah, actually, surprisingly.
Hopefully it doesn't happen again. The only other critical stuff, I mean, like I said, I think we talked about it a little bit last talk around about 40 minutes ago. That there were a lot of people who thought this was going to be Marvel's first flop. That's just cap. both
Cap,
financially and quality. It's just a great movie, and it's done really well, despite, we're still in COVID season, people. Like, that shit still is affecting box office scores and, like, people going to the movies.
and it still broke records, still was the best Labor Day weekend movie release to date yet, which is insane, like, still during COVID. And I think a lot of people were talking about, oh, well, Black Widow flopped, obviously Shang-Chi was going to flop. Well, Black Widow flopped for various reasons. One, again, it followed the formula, and just watching the trailers, you knew it was going to be the same Marvel movie. Shang-Chi felt different even just watching the trailers. And two, it also got fucked over, which is why Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney, because they did a streaming release, which was not agreed upon on her contract, because with Shang-Chi, they didn't do a stream release as well the day of their movie premiere. They're waiting, I think, a month, I'm pretty sure.
43-day, 40-day theater exclusive right now.
Well, Black Widow was supposed to have that same deal, but didn't. They still dropped on stream the same day, so that gets royally.
The production of the Black Widow film, like they released it at the wrong time. It was released at the end of COVID. It had a theater stream double feature.
It got delayed so many times too.
It had a lot going against it, and I mean, I hate to say it's not the best movie in the world either. So it just kind of a lot of unfortunate events surrounding that poor film. Yeah, it's okay, but I'm happy to report Shang-Chi doesn't have a majority of that and actually kicks ass.
Yes, it doesn't have really any of those issues, thank God.
Yeah. So I think the Critical Drinker, who I think we've had many discussions about this point. I can't stand him. He just released a review where he's like, "There's too much stuff in it."
Wait, really?
That's Cap. Yeah, he's trying to say something about the writing being messy. Literally, the video is called "Shang-Chi: Good Ideas, Bad Writing." And I just want to square off with at some point.
The writing is phenomenal. Literally the only issue were the MCU level jokes, and that's it. But otherwise, the characters and their interaction, the stories, the emotional parts, even the writing for the fight choreography was awesome. How they got into those fights and things like that. I think Shang learning the way of his mother's people was really cool, and that whole interaction with him and his aunt. And all the side characters just seem really cool, too. They're not just brushed off to the side. As Gino said earlier, they're all developed. Awkwafina gets her own story, gets her own development in the final fight scene as well, and her big moment. The sister gets closure for everything going on and also gets to realize, I'm on the same level as my brother. And the whole post-credit scene of her taking over the father's organization, which sets her up to be an awesome villain. And then the father, too, and how he was just I guess you can say he kind of falls into some classic villain tropes, but I think he's unique enough and cool enough to where he breaks a lot of those too.
I keep seeing the stuff that people are trying to say he's generic, and I don't agree. He literally, we're talking about a 1,000 years warlord who gives up everything for love. Great start, right? Literally gives up the 10 rings and his immortality. That love is taken away from him, and he goes back to become a worse version of himself because he feels like the world that he left had to drag him back into it. How can you say that is a bad... how can you say that's a generic villain?
You're right.
Tell me another Marvel villain that's like that. Show him to me. Give him to me. Well, now I'm gonna have comments who are gonna throw it at me and be like, "Oh, what about this one, this one, and this one?" I'll be like, "Fuck, you got me there." Son.
There were some things where I was just of course he's being manipulated by some darkness, his wife isn't actually calling out to him. There were some things that you kind of were expecting, but it wasn't even that bad because the contention between him and then Shang afterwards and what led up to their final fight just made it that much more epic as well. I think that you're gonna fall into those classic tropes. It's how you handle, I feel the conflict around those tropes, and I think the writing handles it very well.
I wish that instead of it being that I don't know, I wish he would have misconstrued some ancient text or something like that, and that was the reason he broke the gate. I really didn't like the idea that he was being summoned by this deity. I thought that just kind of made it really cheap. It was supposed to be almost a god, the highest peak of humanity, right? I mean, this guy was 1,000 years old, right? Wasn't a big fan that he was just being casually manipulated. It would have been a lot better if he had just misunderstood some writings from if he had thought that was the gate to the afterlife or something like that. How fucking cool would that have been? That he went there to go break it and misunderstood that it was actually a gate to hell.
A hell spawn, yeah. Right. That's actually a good a good alternate. I feel like a good alternate ending. I like that's not bad.
Marvel, hire me.
Hire me, man. Hire us as producers, Marvel. Come on. I'll handle your costume design. Gino will handle your writing. We got you.
It'll be great. It'll be fine.
I'm trying to think. I think we've got like just like 2 or 3 more minutes before we should probably cap this.
We covered everything for the most part.
Everything from the original. Yeah, I'm sad that we had to redo this whole thing, but.
Yo, Brady, have we been echoing this whole time? You're just gonna tell us again casually? I'm just curious.
It says Justin's in here, and I could be wrong, but I just thought he would have caught that early on.
He might not be listening, which is,
I don't know. I'm right now on my Streamlabs OBS. It tells me who's here, so it's have to did. Thanks so much for loading time. Yeah, thank you guys for thank you for coming in and tuning in to a review, man. We really appreciate it.
We have 5 people here.
So
we have Brady. Ethan's here. Ethan's here.
All right, so on Twitch it says 5, and it says 5 viewers, but Streamlabs also tells me like the specific users, and it says there's more users. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I love this stream. Thank you, Tart. Welcome, Tart. Are you just now tuning in, Tart? Because we kind of just went through the entire review. Also, I guess Justin can cut out this last minute, but we should probably do a quick outro. Yeah, those were our thoughts on Shang-Chi. I give it like I think a solid 8.5, maybe even a 9. No, probably a 9 out of 10, honestly.
Dude, I hate number reviews.
I know.
I'm just gonna start lying about all of mine. I'm just gonna pick a random number out of my head, and people are gonna be like, "Damn, Gino, you said all these positive things. Why'd you give it a 4.5?" I'm like, that's just how the cookie crumbles.
That's fair.
Shang-Chi, 4.5 stars.
Out of 5. We'll take it. Yes, just got out of labs. I'm so sorry, Tart.
Now we have 7
still make it.
Guys, at the end of the
we could keep streaming. This is the end of the Shang-Chi review. So thank you guys for watching. For all you YouTube frogs, my name is Nikita. I'm your local comic book nerd. And who are you again?
Yo, my name's Gino. I'm your weeb enthusiast.
You're a weeb. Well, get out of here, you weeb. We don't want your kind here anymore. Bye, suckers. Thank you for watching, your resident nerd.
Oh, we have to say it.
And that's the outro.